All right, Deblair Tate, thank you so much for joining the Atlanta Voice today. I appreciate you taking time out. If you can, just go ahead and tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am Deblair Tate, country girl from Mississippi. Decided to just go for it all and just break out of the ordinary, the generational things that we have down there, lack of success. I have a clothing brand, 8-figured. I am now a new published author, which I'm so excited about that. And I'm also 22 years in the military, still serving to this day.
All right, thank you so much. A long list of things that I want to talk about. Let's start with the book, Resilient as I'm loving the title. Tell me, what inspired you to write that book at this point in your life?
So I was inspired. It just happened all of a sudden. I never wanted to write a book, believe it or not. Never even enjoyed writing, but I'm a coach. I've been a coach for 17 years, personal trainer, and throughout that journey, I live a private life, but people are always constantly, telling me their story. I'm helping them with their struggles, but I never shared my story or shared my struggles with anyone. So I felt like it was time for me to just kind of open up and be vulnerable and share my story because I needed to walk in my walk. I'm always telling people, hey, you need to do this. And somebody asked me one day, well, what is your why? What keeps you motivated? Why are you doing what you do? And I had a documentary. My publicist got me involved with a group that did a documentary on me. And it kind of opened up some doors that I didn't even think that were like wounds and things that I needed to share that people were probably interested in. So that sparked me to tell my story the way I wanted to tell it. So that birthed my book, Resilient as.
All right. So there were a lot of issues, it seemed like, that you dealt with in your childhood, which is kind of surprising. It's Winona, Mississippi? Winona?
Yes.
Okay, there's a lot of things evidently going on that I didn't know about. Talk about your father's role in your life and how that was influential.
Well, my father in the beginning of my life was non-existent. He was in Mississippi with my mom for a period of time when I was first conceived, and he moved away to Alaska. He wanted my mom to go, but my mom wanted to stay back with her family. So when he left and went to Alaska, that was pretty much probably the end of me seeing him the way I needed to see him. So we didn't develop a relationship until later, and for a long time, I felt a certain type of way about it because I didn't know how to feel or why he wasn't in my life. My mom never told me why. She never spoke negative of him. She never even said anything. She just left me with thoughts of my own. So I had to, kind of come up with my own assumptions, and they were not the best assumptions, There was a lot of resentment because I felt that I wasn't wanted. And it just made me kind of be defensive about a lot of things, and I started, as I got older, I started wanting answers, in anger, like why. I felt like he needed to answer. He needed to tell me why he didn't want me or why wasn't he in my life, because my mom, I wouldn't say she struggled, but it wasn't easy raising me because I wasn't the easiest child. I wasn't just the person that just did everything they were supposed to do. I got in trouble. So I made it a struggle for her. And not saying that him being in my life would have, made a difference, but I think that it would have impacted my life a little more by having both parents in my life.
So how strong was your mother's influence with your father not being there on your upbringing?
She did what she had to do. He never was a topic. And that's the thing too. And now I understand why he never was a topic of conversation. She never said he didn't want me. When he did try to visit, when he came home, she allowed him once or twice, but it was weird times of the night. So I don't know if she was open to how he was trying to come see me. And it just kind of disappeared after that, Later on, I started questioning things, and his sister stays in a city about 20 miles away. So I developed a relationship with her, and then I started asking her questions that she couldn't answer. And she just told me I finally need to have a conversation with him to get the answers I needed.
In the book, there's a lot of violence that you had to contend with, and again, making assumptions about Mississippi, I had no idea that this kind of violence was going on. I think you lost a couple of good friends
Right.
to violence. How did that affect you?
It was our norm. You know, it hurt at the time because you never want to lose anybody, but we knew what type of life we were living down there. So we knew at any given time, you know, like you could lose somebody because that's the life we were living. All of us were involved with it. My cousins, myself, I engaged in those activities. I wasn't killing anybody or whatever, but I was in the wrong probably type of groups that, you know, did things that we probably shouldn't be doing. My group of friends that I had, my girls that we were always, you know, into fights and just probably doing things that could have cost us not to be as successful in life as we are today, you know. But luckily, we didn't do anything we didn't get caught doing anything, I would say, that was detrimental to our career. So I had a couple of restraining orders against me, you know, did some things in the past that I wasn't proud of, but, you know, most people do, right?
Okay, so with it seems like you had a lot of negative influences. What were some of the positives that you dealt with or you experienced during school?
I had mentors, so I had positive people that saw, you know, how some people see things in you that you don't see in yourself. So I did have people that saw things in me, teachers. I was in the church, so I did have I knew right from wrong. So that's the thing. It's not like I didn't know right from wrong. Just what I choose to do was another story, you know. I can't even blame the people that I was around because sometimes I was the ringleader. But the positive people were my church people that I had in my life, mentors from school. So my family, they were positive too. But, you know, did I listen? No, not all the time.
You were an athlete in school?
Oh, yeah.
What sports did you play?
Softball was my baby. So I was a heavy hitter softball. I continued to play softball in college, but I pretty much played every sport. I ran track, played basketball. I was in a band. I did it all.
Where did you go to college?
Mississippi State University, Hale State. Shout out to our Bulldogs.
All right. So again, early in life, it seems like you were dealing with a lot of difficulties. What was the thing that allowed your demeanor to change to where you can go into a college environment and flourish?
Well, probably me transitioning into the military. You know, I knew when I was in high school that I didn't want to continue that type of life. I knew I wanted to be successful. I knew I wanted to get away. I just didn't know how I was going to get away. I wanted to go to the military right after high school, but my grandmother was very protective of me, and I felt like she knew the type of life I was living anyway. I was involved in drugs and things of that nature, and she wanted me to be protected because she was so overprotective of me. So she wanted me to go away to college with my cousins because they were already there. So she felt like somebody was there to be able to watch over me. So I felt like the military kind of transitioned me to be a different person.
I want to take time now to thank you for your service. What made the Air Force a good fit? Because it's something you're still involved with now, right?
Correct.
What made the Air Force a good choice?
I didn't know it was a good choice. I just happened to make it work for me. I knew I had cousins that was in the Army, and they told me that the Army wasn't a place for a female. So I was like, okay, I'll do the Air Force. So I wanted to travel. I wanted to just be able to do something different, and that was an opportunity for me because outside of that, I didn't know a way out. So I was looking for a way out because a lot of people from my city, they go to the same college, which is 2 hours down the street, and they go back home. So I didn't want to be that person that didn't know where to go after college. So I needed to make sure I had a plan that took me a little further than where I saw most of our people go.
And let me go back for a second. I meant to ask you about this earlier. You talked a lot about racism that you experienced in the school. And one of the things that blew me away, you told me that they had a black prom and a white prom.
Yes.
And that's just something that's absolutely unheard of. How did you feel about that? About the racism that you dealt with in that community?
It was normal. It was normal to me. And that's what's so crazy about it. It was my norm, and I didn't feel a way about it until I was gone. And I was telling people about it. I told my story to people that did my documentary, and they were like, what? I told it to my boyfriend at the time, and he came down for my high school class reunion, and he was like, where's the white people? And I was like, oh, they had their class reunion last week. He looked at me like, why are you saying it like it's just all good? And I was like, what? That was our norm. We knew it wasn't right, but at the end of the day, it was what we accepted. So we didn't try to, fight it or change it or whatever. That was just our normal. We had, everything was separate. Prom, the graduation, like the little baccalaureate service they had, class reunions, black homecoming queen, white homecoming queen. So everything was segregated, and they made sure that no blacks got a one-up on the other race.
And this is like, you didn't go to high school in like 1970. This
was the 2000s. Yep, this was the 2000s. And it was still that way after I left, And even to this day, my last class reunion I attended was my 10-year class reunion. I'm not telling my age, so I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was. But it was in 2000 and something, 2010. 2010. So this is just 2022. And I had just asked one of my classmates that's at home, I was like, are they doing, still doing separate proms and things like that? And they was like, well, they tried to start inviting, you know what I mean? Now it's still like a gesture. It's not something that happens. And it's like, you have to be intentional with wanting to invite people, but some of them don't even want to attend proms together or graduations together. They don't want to.
I can't imagine the kind of strength it takes to deal with the idea that your school says it's okay to have separate proms and separate graduation events.
We had a whole school that was for whites only. It was a Christian school that only white people attended. It was certain buildings that we couldn't even enter into, and we knew that growing up. We just knew not to go. It wasn't like we got together and rallied. We even saw when the KKK had their rallies downtown. Like we knew exactly what vehicles were out there, and they were our people that owned our local grocery stores and places like that. They interacted with us as if it was nothing, but behind the scenes, they were doing their thing, and they didn't really care to hide it.
That's mind blowing. So I'm thinking your time as an athlete in school kind of helped facilitate what you did well in the Air Force. I understand that you were responsible for physical training on some level.
Yes, of course. So the Air Force is all physical training. We do a lot of combat training with weapons, just with gas masks, full uniforms, just preparing you for having to go to war at any given time.
And that part is, so you became a physical trainer outside of the Air Force.
It wasn't because of that, though. Me becoming a personal trainer happened by accident, and I say it again, nothing that I'm doing now was planned. Everything that I'm doing, it just happened to just fall in place. So I became a personal trainer as a result of me moving to Atlanta from Biloxi. I was out there doing an active duty tour. Hurricane Ivan came. I wanted to get away. Quick story, moved to Atlanta. Didn't even have a job, so I was hustling. So I found a job at a gym. And at the gym, they had a smoothie bar. I worked at the smoothie bar. And then the trainer that I have at the time, he came in and asked me if I ever competed. So I was actually a fitness competitor before I even became a personal trainer. So that kind of was the path. Became a competitor. People started asking me about, oh, do you train? I was like, no. And I just finally was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So that started my journey as a trainer.
And how rewarding is that?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's my passion now, being able to help people. I didn't realize at the time what I was getting myself into. I just knew I wanted to help people look good. That's it. That was my sole purpose in the beginning. Let me transform these bodies, because that's what people recognized in me. Being a competitor, I don't know if you know what competitors look like when they're training for shows, but your body is totally different. The sacrifice, the self-discipline that you have to have. And that was my goal, to make people look good. I developed relationships as I'm training these people. We're seeing each other a couple of times out of the week. So I started to encounter their personal issues that they were having, things that sometimes cause them to kind of break down and not be able to like attend a session or whatever. And that's when I got into more coaching. So I transitioned my name from a personal trainer to a coach, because that's something totally different. So.
Now, you were diagnosed with an autoimmune deficiency. How did that come into play with what you were doing in terms of training others and just living your life day to day?
So it didn't affect it initially because I hid it, and I tried to make it as if it was non-existent, because to me, I was a person that was strong, and I couldn't believe that something was happening to me. And I never shared what was going on with me. I was struggling a lot, taking a lot of medication, going to doctors all the time, because in the beginning we didn't know exactly what was going on. We knew something was happening, but we didn't know what was happening. And I never shared with anybody, any of my clients. Only person that knew was my boyfriend at the time. He saw my breakdowns, my struggles, but then when I got in front of my clients, I was a totally different person. I used their energy to push forward, and even up until last year, no one still knew. They would see some things because I have some physical things that happen if I get in a certain environment, and they would see it and recognize it, and I was embarrassed for a long time, because they was like, oh my God, what's going on with you or whatever. And I'm like, oh, nothing. I still tried to, brush it under the rug. And instead of educating people on what's going on, I still tried to keep it a secret. And I realized that that wasn't the route to go, because it was more so causing me to struggle on the inside, having to, suffer in silence. So I wanted to start becoming a voice, and I started opening up about it.
What is 8 Figured?
8 Figured is my brand. It started out as my clothing line, but it blossomed into so much more. So I have a lot of things under 8 Figured now. So 8 Figured was birthed because I wanted to get away from the personal training. It was time for me to go. I was tired. I was sacrificing so much. I was like, I almost lost my family as a result of training from sun up to sundown, thinking that me hustling and working like that was the way to go. So I needed a way to just basically get my time back. I needed a way to, prioritize my life and not sacrifice the important things in life. So I created a clothing brand, and it just took off from there. Like, didn't know where it was gonna go. I'm the designer of my clothes, so that's the good thing about it. I designed all my clothes. So I got with my business partner that I interned with graphics, and shot the idea to him, and we took off from there.
Okay. And how's that going?
It's going great. I have supplements, I have clothes, male, females, and my whole purpose of creating my brand was to create a platform for people of all sizes, shapes, or whatever to really feel good about wearing clothes, because you want to look good and feel good at the same time. So it was just a way for people to express themselves and have, clothes to represent that.
Okay. All right, so back to the book. After an individual reads your book, what takeaways do you want them to have?
After you read my book, you should be empowered to know that nothing should be able to stop you. You can do whatever you want to do. There's a lot of tools that I give you guidance, talking about, the company that you keep, setting boundaries, just being able to know what consistency looks like. It gives you some heavy hitters. It makes you really think about what's stopping you from pushing forward. And it also makes you realize that there are some things that's holding you back if you haven't taken that extra step. And it gives you a platform to be able to share those things in an effort to move forward with your life so you can live your best possible life.
I want to thank you so much for coming and spending time with us today. How can our viewers follow you?
So you can follow me on Instagram at I am Deblair. You can also go to my website, www.8figure.com. Go pick up my book. It's on pre-order now. It launches June 1st. Go support.